Welcome back to Half the Battle. I'm your host, as always, Daniel Levi. Their new album, The Deceivers, is in stores now and available on all streaming platforms. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Sean Z and Eyal Levi of Daath to the show. Sean Z, Eyal, welcome to Half the Battle.
Hello, hello.
Hey, what's going on?
Chilling, man. The pleasure's all mine having y'all on. And guys, I mean, look at this thing. I mean, the album is absolutely huge, but when you open this up, I mean, dude, this is like a sexy fruit roll-up. You give me the right kind of medication, I'm going to eat this thing. I mean, this is beautiful. What do y'all think about the artwork of your record?
Adrian Baxter, man. If anyone likes the artwork, they should look up Adrian Baxter. He's this English artist that we got with for it. He's insane good, super detailed, and just comes up with these structures or these designs that are, you know, the stuff of nightmares. But he's also really technical, so it kind of works perfectly for us. And he's kind of like he's kind of like in the style of what we've always had, just evolved, I think. And
for sure, yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's done Mayhem artwork, actually. Speak of the devil, it was an honor to get him to be able to do something for us. Yeah, and obviously with the mix of the color and the fruit roll up, as I called it. I tried to take a bite out of it. I mean, you know, honestly, I literally put my teeth into it just to see, because it's so satisfying.
I mean, I'm sure it had a nice little aftertaste to it, you know. Got you in the mood to pump that incredible record that you guys put out.
Thank you.
Which I consider to be the album of the year. And guys, it's interesting because buying records nowadays compared to growing up, I mean, I remember, you know, I had my Beastie Boys Check Your Head record. You have to put your thumb on the parental advisory sticker so your grandma can't see like what she's about to buy you. And nowadays you can preview the album on Spotify first. Full quality. I'm not talking about LimeWire quality. Sean Z, you can try it before you buy it and decide if you like the album first.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's better than it ever was. You know, I think, you know, the sales kind of speak for themselves, because you can preview the whole album. I remember you used to have to go to FYE or shit, I guess it was probably Tower Records. You could go and they have little headphone listening stations, and you could. That was the breakthrough in the music scene. And it's funny, I'm laughing because it was Incesticide, Nirvana. I remember having to kind of hide the parental advisory so that my mom could buy me that album growing up. But yeah, it's very cool to be able to pre-listen, but it also makes it so that you kind of have to make a good album, or else no one's gonna give a shit.
Yeah, I remember getting gypped a lot back in the day by a record. There's 2 good songs and like 8 garbage songs. You can't really do that anymore.
No, you can't. Yeah, because immediately someone will hear it and be like, nah, they'll just buy the single and you won't sell a whole record, because, you know, we're obviously in the age of singles. So yeah, making a whole record is kind of like the new norm.
Also, vinyl wasn't really a thing when we were growing up.
True.
So that's kind of wild that it's a thing now, but it's like the majority of physical sales of music are on vinyl now, which
that's so crazy.
It's just wild. But I mean, it makes sense, because who even owns a CD player anymore other than people who have a car or just like the lone holdouts?
Yeah.
So I think people now, since music's so easy to just stream, there's this whole like contingent of people who like to own physical things and like collect things. So it's now more like instead of being like the only way to listen to music is now like turn music into a collector's item. But I think that people who get vinyl still stream it. Like they'll still stream and listen.
Oh yeah. I'm a huge vinyl guy, man. I buy vinyl all the time. I mean, I don't really buy the vinyl to listen to it unless I'm in a specific mood. Like I'm hanging out, I just want to like put the needle in the groove and just kind of jam. Most of the time, 96% of the time, it's always a stream. And I have a CD player in my car, but you know, obviously the possibilities are, you know, endless when you have streaming service you can just pick from and, you know, curate your playlist and stuff like that. But yeah, I do still buy vinyls. It's weird. I like the colored ones. I don't care if you have a black vinyl. I'm probably not going to buy it. I don't want that standard. Like, of course, there's a few I'll get, but I'm always for the colors. You know,
that's the number one way to support a band, by the way. So bands do get royalties for streaming, and actually streaming does add up to record sales, but the numbers are kind of insane. So it's 3,750 free users of a streaming service. 3,750 streams, free streams, equal one album sale, or 1,500 premium. So that's a lot of streams to just equal one sale. So like, to really, really support a band, getting the vinyl would be the way to do it. And that's, I mean, if you want a band to keep making more records, like if you like their shit and you want them to make more, that would be the number one way. Because streaming's great, and there is revenue from it, but it's not enough, especially for metal bands. I think for maybe in other genres that are really, really big with streaming, like pop, then it's enough to keep going.
Yeah.
And you know, I love the quality of the vinyls. I truly believe it's one of the best listening experience that you can have. And guys, don't worry, I'm not one of these guys like in that South Park episode where they fart into the wine glasses and smell it and act all uppity. I truly, genuinely believe you get some good studio speakers, you put the vinyl on there, and I can hear all the elements of the music. And then you take in, you know, just the color designs that you put in there. That's just a bonus for me. But the listening experience, when I put on the Deceivers on vinyl, and don't get me wrong, I've been listening to all the mixes since y'all have been working on the demos. It's a different experience when you hear it on the vinyl. There's elements that you don't notice. And on that topic, because my next question is, just like the new Queens of the Stone Age record or any of their records, every time you listen to the Deceivers, you hear something you didn't hear before. Why do you guys think that's the case?
Because we put all together too much stuff in our music.
The layers, just like packed in there. It'll take you like 2 years to dissect it all, honestly.
There's more information than a human can consume in one sitting. But the reason that you can hear it better on vinyl is because it's a different. I mean, sometimes bands don't do this, but they should. It gets mastered differently for vinyl. It's more dynamic and it's less crushed, and so more stuff can come through, and so it sounds more 3D, and it wouldn't work well on streaming, but for vinyl, it's the way to go. But we write very, very layered music. Like, it's not usually about it's not usually about like some individual's part. It's more about like how that part feels in the context of the bigger picture. And sometimes you just need layers to really, really get it across. But I think that it comes from, the background with classical music, because there's a million things going on in classical music. Like, you can have really, really complicated music underneath a really simple melody. Like, you can have a lot of elements supporting one big idea, but without all those elements supporting it, like, that idea doesn't have the same weight as if it wasn't there. So like, we still have like hooks, and we still have riffs, and we still have melodies that you'll remember. Just sometimes they need support. So think of it more like classical music than anything else. And if you listen to classical, there's always a million things going on.
Yeah, no doubt about it. But even with some of our favorite rock bands, like I already mentioned Queens, and you can mention tons of other bands that we like you just hear a different element, whether it's a riff you didn't notice, whether it's a synth, a vocal background, like whatever the case.
Well, Queens layer their albums like crazy, but they do it more with like effects and like more like embellishment parts and things like that. But they still do counterpoint. And all kinds of complex musical stuff. But I mean, Queens, that's a big influence. But yeah, they definitely layer the shit out of their music. It's cool.
Now, gentlemen, what would y'all say your favorite tracks on the new record are? Because I mean, when you pull up this record, and I mean, obviously, look, I'm a big fan of the two singles. Hex Unending, and Ascension. I think those are two of the best Daath songs of all time. But when you look at some of these deep cuts, I mean, Deserving of the Grave, Into Forgotten Dirt, like, hey guys, like there's all kinds of songs on this album for everybody. If someone hasn't heard the singles, or maybe tell me this, what's your favorite single and what's your favorite deep cut on the record?
I would say it's interesting because when we did the record, my deep cut was one that wasn't expected to become a single, and then it became a single, and then I stopped liking it, and then as you know, people grow to like it, you grow to like it. I think that's the pain and torture of writing a song. So I do really like Hex quite a bit. You know, that was my favorite, I guess, original, and then which became a single. You know, like I said, that vicious cycle. And it's a tough one for me because Unwelcome and Deserving are so good together. I don't know. I still say Deserving of the Grave is probably my favorite deep cut.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough one because Hex is the only one that was written as like a single. You know, like it has like single written all over it. Like from the moment it came out, it was just like, yeah, this is a single. Whereas the other ones are a little crazier, so you have to like think about which ones will be the single sometimes. Hex was just super obvious. So I'll say Hex as far as the singles go, because out of all of them, it's the most obvious single. Like it's definitely, you know, checks off all the boxes. It does everything that we do, but in a really concise package. As opposed to some of the other singles, they still have great choruses and stuff, but they still go mad. Like they're not concise. As far as deep cuts, I have to say Into Forgotten Dirt or Deserving of the Grave. It's one or the other or both.
What's interesting about Hex Unending and Ascension is, for me personally, they hit me right away. I got it right away, and it was catchy. I want to keep listening to those songs. But then you got songs like Unwelcome Return, With Ill Desire. And the first times I listened to those songs, you know, I was kind of like, okay, I got to hear this again. I got to really digest it well and see exactly what's going on. And now those songs are growing on me tenfold.
Those songs are crazier. That I think that's part of it too. With Ill Desire is just madness. Like it doesn't like, even though there's the structure is simple and there's like a very, very epic chorus. Probably one of your best, Sean, as far as choruses on the album is with Ill Desire, in my opinion. But like if you listen to the music, like it doesn't stand still at all. Like it's just constantly morphing. So if you're looking for like a riff to latch onto, that'll be hard at first. You kind of have to latch onto like the vibe of the whole thing. Whereas Ascension is like drum fill into like a catchy riff, into like a catchy groove, into like catchy vocals. It's like, even if it's heavy as shit, it's like, it's definitely single. I mean, that's why we picked those as singles first. They're definitely straight to the point.
Yeah.
So obviously you guys know we can't end this talk without, you know, bringing up the fact that y'all got a brand new lineup, and we're going to talk about the individuals in a second, but I want to talk about the concept of finding new guys, because, you know, some guy I really look up to, his name's Alex Anthopoulos, and he's the general manager of the Atlanta Braves, the GM. And, you know, he's the guy that led us to a World Series in 2021. And he often gets criticized about how, like, for example, there's a player on our team, Ronald Acuna Jr., who won the MVP last year. Listen to this. We have him on a 10-year, $100 million contract, which is very, very cheap. I know $100 million sounds like cheap. A lot, but the guys nowadays, you know, they're getting $50 million per year and whatnot. And Alex Anthopoulos,
dude, we're in the wrong business.
He gets a lot of heat about how he finds the best players when they're young, before they're unproven. He takes a chance on them and he signs them to these incredible deals. And that's how he's able to, you know, continuously sustain such a winning ball club. And the reason I bring that up is because you guys could have found Rafael Trujillo 2 years late. You could have found Krim 2 years late, and someone else might have taken him up. And what I'm trying to say here is, when I listen to a guy like Alex, excuse me?
Someone does have Krim.
Yeah, I know, but you know what I'm saying? Metallica could have picked him up in 2 years.
True.
You never know. The guy is that damn good. So with Alex Anthopoulos, the Braves GM, one thing when I listen to him talk, he says stuff like this. It's not just about how good of a player they are. It's about the makeup of the individual. You can't just let anyone on the team. You got to do homework on the teammate, the person, the guy, and of course, the player. How does that translate to y'all's new members?
It's accurate, right?
Yeah, I'd say that's pretty accurate. That was about what it was. It was do the homework, find guys who can, basically fit the bill and are on par at the same level, or if not better. Basically, I think that was kind of the criteria.
Yeah, it's almost like the playing part of it is assumed. Like if we're talking to them about playing with us, the assumption is that they're badass players. That if we wouldn't be talking to them if they weren't badass. So that's just like the ticket for like
entry.
We're like even having a conversation because we're not gonna just talk to some like shitty musicians. So that's like the opening, the opening. But I mean, just because someone's a good musician or a great musician, it doesn't mean that they're a team player. Doesn't mean that they're creatively on the same page. It doesn't mean that they're looking at the bigger picture, and are cool with the bigger picture. There's some individual players who are 100% only out there to get personal glory, which is fine. But our whole plan with the new guys was to get dudes that are unbelievable, but who are down with what we do, and totally cool about it, regardless of where they're at in their careers. So, I mean, everybody's done stuff though, and there's no rookies, but definitely they haven't done like huge bands yet or anything, and are definitely more than capable of joining any band they would ever want to. But I think that we had a long time to figure out how to get it right, after getting it wrong with the band relationship department. So we put a lot of focus on finding dudes who we'll get along with, and
we're just cool dudes, man. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
And what's interesting, because I know Eyal, and I'm sure Sean and I have talked about this privately before, but you see these guys on YouTube. Okay, this guy can play 300 BPM, fastest guy you've ever seen, but he can't play a beat to save his life. Women's pussies go dry when he plays, is what I'm trying to say. So how important was it to not just have, a cool guy, have the technical ability, but also have that feel, have that groove, be musical, not just be a robot?
I mean, that's why we love Krim so much, for instance. And Krim actually, he slowed us down. And I don't mean in a bad way. Like, he got us to like not be so frantic with the music and to groove more on the songs. It's huge, because if it doesn't feel good, it isn't good. And by the way, I'll just say, I don't consider people who can play 300 BPM but have terrible feel to be good musicians. So like, I think some people might, but I don't. Like, I think they're good at that thing of like playing at 300 BPM, but I don't. To me, that doesn't mean you're a good musician. That just means you're good at playing at 300 BPM.
300 BPM.
Like, can you make me nod my head? Can you make me remember your song? Is it memorable or not? And it's interesting because there's this movie called Moneyball, right, with Brad Pitt and Jonah Hill, and you guys remember what they had to go through. They had their three big stars, Jason Giambi, Johnny Damon, Isringhausen, who were like fucking stars, and they had to get rid of them. And the guys that y'all replaced are no slouches at all. And the Moneyball quote, and I'm going to insert the clip from the movie here in a second, but the quote was, "We don't need Giambi, Damon, and Isringhausen. We can recreate them in the aggregate."
Billy, we got 38 home runs and 120 RBIs.
Guys, you're still trying to replace Giambi. I told you we can't do it, and we can't do it. Now, what we might be able to do Just recreate him. Recreate him in the aggregate.
How does that kind of apply to Daath a little bit? Because your new guys are absolute studs.
We're definitely not trying to recreate the last lineup. The last lineup didn't work out, so there's nothing to recreate. And also
starting over. Yeah, basically. It's just starting over with just some pointers, to not make the same mistakes, basically, of relationships. That's really it.
If the last lineup would have worked out, it would have worked out, but it didn't. So we didn't feel the need to like try to recreate something that didn't work. And that's while still being, like Sean said, respectful to our roots and making sure that we sound like Daath. All due respect, they're all great musicians, but it would be really lame to try to get some great guitar player like Raphael and then be like, all right, now you have to try it and sound like somebody else.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So going to each individual replacement. So you guys went from Kevin Talley, who, started off as being the young phenom. Eventually he kind of becomes like, and I mean this respectfully, kind of a journeyman in metal, where he's playing with all these different bands. And at his height, I thought his groove was undeniable, and I thought he was one of the best drummers in metal back in the day. And the guy you got now, Krim, oh my God, talk about also being a young phenom. But man, he kind of represents that next generation. I feel like he can take you guys to heights that you haven't maybe experienced before. Am I kind of out of line in saying that, or do you guys agree with me a little bit?
No, I don't know.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Yeah, I don't want to say anything bad about Kevin because I think he's a great drummer. Yeah. And I think that like you said, when like his sense of groove and his power, and I was just watching a video of him playing with us in Europe, like, and playing a blast beat at like 246 BPM, but his sticks were like this high the whole time. Is insane. Like, Tally is he fucking mashes that shit, man. Yeah, he was a powerhouse. But but like the thing is, was not in the band anymore, and so obviously the person who was going to replace him had to be able to take us further than Tally, because we're not looking to recreate the past. We're looking to surpass it. Krim is pretty godlike when it comes to drums, and he's a really great guy also. So it's nothing but good stuff. But I wouldn't like compare them. I wouldn't compare them. Two totally different. Not even close. Yeah, not even the same. Yeah, different styles, different people. Obviously no one's the same, but yeah, completely different styles. And not one's better than the other, but obviously now we have Krim, and he can help us, get to the next level, because his playing is really, really good. His double bass is insane. No, the thing I'll say is I think that Krim enjoys being in a band with us more. Yeah, again, I don't really think a lot of anything sour so much as like real life just kind of got in the way. That's really it. Oh, of course. It's a long time. That's a long time to not be in a band together, and like you can try, and if you can try and recreate the past, but I think that's why so many band reunions after a hiatus suck, is because you get like two people in the band that are like ready to charge forward. You get a bunch of other people who just didn't care about it for a decade or more, and then they get back together and they're trying, and all they have to go off of is stuff that happened 10 or 20 years ago. And so they're trying to recreate a moment that is long gone. Whereas we don't have that moment with these new guys. Sean and I have a history, so we know where to take this, but it's all new with the new guys, and so it can have a new energy. There's no like glory day we're trying to recapture with these guys. And I think that's kind of the big difference. Like we're not trying to like get back into some groove that that is gone, I guess.
No, for sure.
Refinding the spark, so to speak. Yeah.
And of course, all respect to Tally, one of the metal drummers I grew up with, and but Krim, man, incredible. So then you went from Jeremy to Dave on bass, and Jeremy has a very unique sound, very funky. Like he's a serious bass player, but man, Dave Marvuglio. Firstly, I got a story about this guy. I met him. I know Eyal knows about this. Sean, did you know that your bassist is a blue belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, has competed? And I'm not sure if this part's true because it's been a few months. I think he might have even competed in high school wrestling too. Your bass player is a bad boy.
I learned this. I learned that he's actually pretty badass, like physically. When we shot the videos, he's a lot taller than I expected, and and he can beat some ass. Like
I did not know that. I connected with him on a different level. I also didn't realize that he was a huge Magic player, and as am I. And he's actually competed in tournaments, and he made it really far in the worlds with like a deck he built. I'm like, bro, this dude is
yeah,
kind of that same level.
So it's funny because I actually got to train with him. I want to tell you all this story, like just to put into context what kind of badass your bass player is. So he finishes recording the album with John Douglas right here in Atlanta. And, he specifically told me, hey, like we can't train until after I finish the record because I'm not trying to, risk a accidental injury and fuck everything up. So just so y'all know, you got a real pro on your hands. But no, man. But so I pick him up from John Douglas's house, right? And you all know in jiu-jitsu, you either wear the uniform, which is called the gi, with the belt and all that, but then they have the no gi, which I just wear a short and shirts, but some guys like to wear, it's called a rash guard, which is kind of like a spandex shirt, and they got the spandex pants, and they've been evolving like their gear throughout the years. But anyways, so I go to John Douglas' house to pick up Dave, right? I knock on the door. Dave opens up, and when I go to the gym, I go in my jeans, my shirt, I change in the locker room, that's just like my routine. I open the door. Dave's in his full-on fucking spandex gear when I open the door. Like, he's ready to go. I'm like, okay, this guy is serious. No, but in all seriousness, man, I take your bass player to a gym called Odyssey, which they're the #1 no-gi jiu-jitsu gym in Atlanta. And basically what I'm trying to tell you is that I took your bassist to a Shark Tank with world champions, with gold medalists, and this guy swam. This guy was in there swimming with the sharks. So your bass player is a BMF, guys.
I mean, he's that way with music too, right? Like BMF on bass. Like one thing that we really solidified with Jeremy in the band was not just having a shitty guitar player playing bass, like happens with a lot of metal. Jeremy is like a true bassist, and so he would write actual bass lines, and that's what I really loved about his playing. And he had really good tone too. Like he played the Spectre basses, he played with a pick, and he just sounded awesome and had like really creative parts. And also went to Berkeley. Dave is a professor at Berkeley. David is a professor at Berkeley and went there, and so they kind of have that in common. So like we weren't going to just go to some guitar player who failed guitar. We needed like a real actual bassist, and Dave is kind of like, he's like very much like where we're at, in that his life is in music, and he's super technically proficient, but he knows exactly when to dial it back, when to turn it on, and he's got just mad groove. If you hear like drums, if you hear just the drums and the bass on the album soloed, like it feels great. And he's a monster.
His technical ability is very technical with the bass as well. I mean, obviously he's an instructor, so now he can kind of shine. I mean, he's in some really good bands. I was checking him out, but dude, just to see his, like, I don't know, just to watch him play some of that stuff, like on the bass playthrough, like, damn. And plus, I really like that aluminum neck bass. That shit was cool to hold. Very, very. I feel like I'm gonna get a metal splinter, but it just allows you to just really slide down the neck. But you know, I mean, you got to think you're replacing a guy who had a friggin' bass clef tattoo on his arm. You know, that's dedication to being a bass player. You're not just some guitar player playing bass if you get a bass clef tattoo. Jeremy, by the way. So that's you know, obviously the next guy had to be again the same, as good, if not better. You know,
and
I think that's
a real bassist.
Yeah, exactly.
Dave's tone is just stupid. Like when y'all go and you watch the playthroughs, like they got Daath has individual playthroughs of every single musician in the band going through each song, and oh my god, when I heard that bass tone kind of more isolated a little bit, I was like,
especially on
Hex.
Hex, Endic bass playthrough sounds nuts.
Yeah. So that was the step in the right direction, of course. And then this one, man, going from Emil Wursler to Rafael Trujillo. You know, for those, I know a lot of y'all know who Emil Wursler is, but for those that don't know, like, firstly, one does not simply replace Emil Wursler. This is the kind of guy. No. If you've never heard Emil play guitar before, let's put it this way: Paul Reed Smith, Mr. PRS himself, flew this guy out to his house for dinner. That's the kind of guy we're dealing with Emil. And I know it's super hard to replace a guy like that, but you found a young prodigy. You found a guy who is wise beyond his years, who has the feel, who can play all kinds of styles. But most importantly, I mean, the shred, the speed, the feel, everything is there that you need to replace a god amongst men like Emil Wursler.
Yeah. So Emil is one of the greatest guitar players on the planet. And, you know, when we were version 1.0 of this band, when Emil was in the band, I think among the bands in our scene, like, he was kind of considered like the best guitar player in metal. And I think even Loomis looked up to Emil as, and that's saying a lot, because like Loomis is like like best guitar player in metal. Took lessons from him. So that's a tall order. And I think it's kind of like we were talking about with Jeremy. The thing with getting a new lead guitar player is Emil wasn't just some standard shredder. You know, love or hate what he does, he has a unique style and he stands out. And he does his thing, his own thing. He figured out how to play like the most shredding shit, but always kind of sound like, you know, when he's soloing. And as opposed to just like being just another shredder. And there's a lot of people now who are good shredders. Like, that's actually kind of a normal thing. Whereas when we started, it wasn't normal. It was actually very abnormal for anybody to be able to shred at all, let alone be as good as Emil. But I think that now it's still rare for people to be as good as Emil, but it's not rare for people to shred. And so there was a lot more clutter in the guitar world of like who to look at. But the thing is, when Krim showed me, and then I showed Sean that first video, Rafael Trujillo, my first reaction was, that's the dude.
Yeah.
Like, immediately. And he's very different than Emil. He actually, I think if Emil's more like a blues jazz background, Rafael's more a classical background. He still does the fusion and the jazz very well, but I think he's very firmly rooted in like an actual classical background. So me and him like understand each other really, really well. And another thing about him that's really, really great is, great playing aside, and I mean, when I say great playing, like the people don't know how good he is. You see his videos and they're crazy, but until you're in a room with him, like, here's a fun fact. In the video to Ascension, when Dean Lamb did his guest solo, Dean Lamb from Arcspire, who's also a monster, you see me playing the rhythm, and the three of us are on this spinning stage, and Dean's playing a solo. But the solo that Dean did is a 2-part solo. It's like there's like 2 solos going on at the same time. And Rafael literally in 5-10 minutes learned the second part of Dean's solo so that he could just play it right there in the video. He just like on the spot. and then performed it in the video, like 10
Yeah,
minutes later.
without actual guitar notation, just like watching, like, oh, I got, I got this.
Yeah, they just like stood around in the green room, and he just like downloaded it into his head and hands like fast, and he's insane good. But all that aside, he's a really good writer too, and he's very much a team player when it comes to writing, and he'll contribute ideas, but if we don't like them, it's no problem. So he contributed entire leads that I cut. And then he also, like, he's not afraid to, you know, with Ill Desire, that first solo that comes in over what was going to be a vocal pre-chorus. And he just was like, hey, I had this idea. And we were like, okay, cool. I guess we're not going to do vocals there. There's this insane solo. So he's not, if he has a good idea, he's not afraid to bring it forward, even if it means somebody else cutting their part. But at the same time, if you cut his part, he's not going to have a problem with it. So it's like true for the bigger picture, kind of person. So,
real team player. And that's exactly what we were talking about when we mentioned the Braves GM, Alex Anthopoulos. Like, it's not just the player, it's the makeup of the individual. And that goes to show exactly that point. And I want to know y'all's opinions about, you know, what do y'all think his best guitar solo on the record is? Because obviously y'all's dual solo in Ascension, I mean, what can I say about that? But I really felt like Raphael stood out in With Ill Desire, Forgotten Dirt. I mean, the kids got something, you know. What's great is that it can pay tribute to the old Daath, but it's a new level. It's not to, you know, no pun intended, but it's an ascension. You know what I'm saying?
I say with lead guitar, I think with the solo department, it's a different level, because it's almost like Emil is, you don't get better than that, right?
Yeah.
You can just get different than that. Like, think about his Subterfuge solo or like Wilting on the Vine. You don't get better than that. That's like as good as a metal solo can ever get. You might like other ones better, but that's like basically perfection. So, like, I just want to make sure that it's clear. Like, I don't think that one's better than the other as a player. They're just different gods, basically. In a world with many gods, they're two different gods. But I don't know. I think with Ill Desire, he plays two solos, one at the beginning and one at the end, and they're both magical. And at the very end, he ends it underneath the vocals, and usually solos and vocals going at the same time suck. Like, it's usually too much, but it works perfectly. So he's also really good at, like, if he's going to do a solo where there's a lot of other shit going on, he also knows how to arrange it to where it's not going to get in the way. He's just a all around just great musician. But with Ill Desire, I think is probably.
No, well, same. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, with Ill Desire out the gate. That's his best. My favorite.
Yeah, with Into Forgotten Dirt, though, I want to say, so basically there's two solos in that song. I do the one towards the end. His is more in the middle, but his was more like a composition. It's like a classical composition. He wrote it, I think, with a piano. And like, you can hear there's actually a piano in the background following the guitar, and it sounds more like a classical piece. It's right in the middle of the song. It's like a very non-traditional solo. It shows like how creative he can get.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. Now, Jesse Zaretti, I like to call him the secret weapon. Like, firstly, not only do the synths and orchestrals sound bigger and better than ever on the Deceivers, and for me personally, the one that stands out the most is Purified by Vengeance. I felt like what he contributed to that song, oh my God, sounded huge. But more importantly than that, gentlemen, having a seasoned guy like Jesse on board, that's going to make Eyal Levi better. That's going to make Sean Z better. That's going to make Rafael Trujillo better, et cetera, et cetera. How invaluable is it having a guy like Jesse on your speed dial list?
Your speed dial list.
Speed dial.
No, dude. I mean, honestly, I think he's amazing. You know, like shit. Just like obviously, he's very good at wording things as well. And then he's a guitar player, and his other projects that he's done are just insane to kind of hear the work that he actually is capable of. But his unwelcome return stuff, you know, like he worded so perfectly as the Danny Elfman kind of, Tim Burton kind of Batman-ish. And it's true, man. Some of those orchestrals and stuff, just damn. I personally like the volumes and the levels, and I think it's all great. You know, I hear some people say it's too loud. Like, it's great.
It's
great.
I love it. Should be louder.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. So Jesse, Jesse is the person that I've been friends with the second longest in the band. So like Sean and I have been friends for going on 2 decades now, but Jesse and I have been friends since 2013. So I've known him for a long time. I worked with his band, Binary Code, back in the day. That's how we became friends. And I watched him go from a dude in a band that they were good. They were just kind of like not really going. They kept getting opportunities, but it just wasn't going where he wanted it to go. And I watched him go from being a dude in that band to basically building this composition career from scratch. Like, he didn't know how to compose when I first met him. Like, he taught himself how to compose, how to orchestrate, how to work with synth. Like, he learned all of that in the time that I knew him, and then made a career out of it. Like, suddenly he's working for Marvel. Suddenly he's working for Netflix. So now he's like with Riot Games and working on like big things. And so, you know, band aside, like, admire the shit out of him. But I'd say that he contributes in ways that people don't see. Like, yeah, his orchestration is great and what you hear is great, but there's a side of his contributions that no one will ever see, because it's just in, you know, voice texts that go back and forth between us, or in the band Discord, but it's pretty much in voice texts that go back and forth between me and him. And we have a very, very brutal and honest relationship. Like, and he's like not afraid to tell me if something needs to get better in the band. Like, I'm very much about making things better. And so is he. And he has no fear about bringing it up. So like, I remember like at some point he was like, he just said, we need to upgrade our art. Like we need to get serious about upgrading the look of everything. And that's when we found Adrian. And that's something that I kind of knew in my mind. Like, I knew it, but for some reason I wasn't like acting on it. It was like, I knew we need to upgrade this. We need to solve this problem, but like, there's so much other stuff going on. But Jesse lit the fire for me. And I think musically also, like, his insights on, you know, I'll present an idea and there's like, it's like good, but he'll tell me things like, there's not enough connective tissue between these parts. Like they don't totally, like, I can tell they work together, but they don't sound like they go together. Or he'll like, he'll give me very, very specific, but not restrictive, advice on what to do. And it's always super, super helpful. So he's like a great, brain to have in the band. Also, like, he's not afraid to speak up when something is wrong, which is a really good thing. Like, he's not afraid to rock the boat, and it's not unprofessional. It's not like, you know, sometimes in bands, people will be unhappy with something or think something needs to be better and just be dickheads or babies about it. He's very, very professional, but he won't hold back. So if, and I think sometimes in bands, people will avoid conflict.
And that builds up over time.
It builds up and it destroys a band.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
yeah, that's one of the things that went wrong for us was people not talking about things. And it can be little things that build up over time. So he's not afraid to just fucking say it, which is great. So like, yeah, I just wanted to say like his musical contributions are amazing, but it's like his overall contributions are very, very important.
Now, lineup changes can give fans anxiety because they fear that the band is going to change for the worst. I mean, y'all's lineup changes only helped confirm who was the main songwriter in the band, similar to some other bands I love. Like, I don't know if you all kept up with the Every Time I Die situation, you know, one of my favorite hardcore bands of all time. And the singer and the singer and the guitar player who was the songwriter were brothers, and they split. They had this big falling out. And now Every Time I Die created a new band called Better Lovers. They got Will Putney in there, you know, Grammy Award winning producer. And they also got the former Dillinger Escape Plan singer, hardcore legend, Greg Puciato. And what's interesting that they kind of remind me of y'all, similar age, but they got that fire and that energy. Like, do you remember when Dillinger Escape Plan shows used to be dangerous, where this dude would blow fire into the crowd, hang off? Dude, they're in their 40s. This guy's still jumping off the balcony. This guy's still jumping off the speakers. Like, I feel like, you know, when I talk about metal being back, and that might be a little tongue in cheek, haha, I feel like hardcore is back now too. But the point I'm trying to make, back to what I was saying, was lineup changes give fans anxiety. And similar to the Every Time I Die situation, Better Lovers confirmed to me who the original songwriter was. It's like, oh, like it was Jordan Buckley all along. That's why Better Lovers kind of has that Every Time I Die sound. Whereas Daath, it still sounds like Daath.
You know, my favorite band, one of my favorite bands, Opeth, you know, whether you like the direction they took or not, they've always been very true to themselves. Its own Michael Ackerfeld is not an original member of Opeth, just in case anyone didn't know that. He didn't found that band. He came in towards the beginning, but Ackerfeld joined the band, and then the rest of the band quit when he joined in the original version of Opeth. So there's no original members left in Opeth. And they're great. They're phenomenal. And the thing with lineup changes is I get it as a fan. I understand. Like, I think back to like being like a kid and liking Megadeth, and Marty Friedman leaves, and loving Marty solos, and then being bummed. But if you want the band to continue, what, like, the lineup changes have to happen. And for people who say, oh, it's got to be with this person in the band, it's like, well, it's not going to be. So what? So are the band just supposed to quit just because you don't want
the track?
You're supposed to like not do this anymore just because you're sad that somebody left. Like, it's kind of dumb. But I think plenty of bands have shown that they can get better with lineup changes. And I think it's very rare that a band stays together with. I know.
Like, what's the percentage of a band that has never had a single lineup change? Like, it's got to be like the smallest percentage ever. Like, everyone's original. They never had to replace anybody. They started from the ground up, and here they are, like Blink 182. I can't. Like any band I can think of.
Drummer before Travis.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I think like every band at some point, even Nirvana had to replace Chad with Dave. You know, like there's always it's very difficult.
There's only two I can think of. So Muse has had the same 3 for 20 plus years, and 311's had the same 5 guys for 30 plus years. Besides that, there's many ways to skin a cat. Korn, for example. You know, and I'm such a hardcore fan of Korn. But I think we kind of figured out, kind of similar to now that we're figuring out, who was the main songwriter for Daath? Who was the main songwriter for Every Time I Die? So when, sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. What band did I bring up? Korn. So Korn, one of my all-time favorite bands, Issues, Untouchables. Oh my God. I mean, yeah, those records, you know, did everything for me. But when Head left the band, they're kind of in between albums. No disrespect. If fans like those albums, please listen to them, because everybody's got different tastes in music. But for me personally, it just didn't sound like Korn for a couple of years. Then Head comes back to the band, Paradigm Shift, Serenity of Suffering, The Nothing. Like, these albums are fucking masterpieces, just like the old school Korn, and it reaffirmed who the songwriter was in the band.
Yeah. Well, for sure. I mean, but I think, you know, like even Slipknot, you know, nowadays you just see how many people they're replacing. I mean, it's just, the band has to continue on, and you just have to fill the pieces no matter what, you know, and I think there's nothing wrong with that. You know, I don't think there ever is. I mean, of course it gives us anxiety, but, you know, in the history of bands being bands, I mean, it's virtually impossible to keep a band together 100%. You know, I mean, if you're doing it, it's like playing the lottery. So the band, you're playing the lottery to even make it, but then you also have to play the lottery to keep your members together. Like, it's just, the odds are never against you in a band. They're all, or never for you. They're always against you in a band, no matter what.
In the case of Daath, there was extra anxiety for our fans because they held on. You know, one of the reasons that we restarted it was because it does have fans who kept on hitting us up. Because if no one had hit us up over those 10, 12 years, I don't think we would have felt like, you know, why do it? Because if it was just some forgotten project, but it wasn't a forgotten project. It's never been huge, but there's always been fans, and there's a lot of fans who have stuck with it the whole time. So if you think about it from their perspective, they stuck with it for over a decade and got excited that it came back, and then it changed. And in their defense, they didn't know how shit worked, because we never talked about how shit worked back in the day. So yeah, like, I never talked about that stuff, and I just didn't want to. So it wasn't really publicly known how the band worked, and so much to their you know, surprise, the band came back, and then they thought that the core of why the band sounded the way it sounded left. And so some people were very, very skeptical of that. But like, Sean and I just felt like the moment they hear No Rest, No End, they're going to shut the fuck up. They're going to be happy.
Yeah, I think that was,
yeah.
Oh, it's Daath. It's Daath.
Yeah. And that's basically what happened is, you know, so like, I understand why they felt the way they felt and why they had anxiety, but all they had to do was hear the first song back, and it was pretty much okay, cool.
So Eyal, when you were on this hiatus, man, and I remember I told you many times, like, dude, like, bring back Daath, and, you know, and I'm sure when you have tons of people hitting you up, even though internally you might want to do it, it's got to be like, dude, shut the fuck up. Like, I don't want to fucking hear that right now, you know, because it hurts, right? And dude, after almost never picking up a guitar again, I don't know if people know that. You were okay.
I was done. Yeah.
You were okay with never playing guitar ever again. You were killing it with the other stuff you were doing. How big of an accomplishment is this album for you on a personal level?
Massive. Yeah. I don't know. It's like a miracle, basically, because I was completely out the door with music. Dude, not only did people hit me up about it, but I tried to restart the band a few times and it failed. So like, that made it extra painful, because there were at least 4 or 5 different times that I tried to get us to do an EP or tried to get us to do a song. And then some people were like, cool, yeah, we'll do it. And then they'd ghost me. So like, it was something that pissed me off. And then I just tried to get out completely. So it's something that I never felt settled about, was always like unhappy about how it went. But just decided you can't be that person, right? Like, you got to move on. So I moved on, but like, there's still definitely that part of me that was always unhappy about how it went. So to go from literally losing my guitar playing completely and learning how to play again to this, yeah, it's like a miracle. It's crazy. I never expected it to happen, but here we are.
And one interesting thing that now that y'all dropped the new album, The Deceivers, available in stores and on all streaming platforms, do you guys think that new fans are gonna go back and listen to the old stuff and be like, okay, like I like their entire discography?
They already are.
Yeah, they already are.
They already are. Yeah. I think there might be, some younger fans who don't connect with maybe the recording quality from back then or something, but those records still sound pretty good. We're getting people checking out the whole discography for
That's
sure.
good. I personally, my opinion was the self-titled album is super raw, underrated, underappreciated, but I think it's mainly because not enough people gave it a chance. And obviously the focus of our show today is the new album, The Deceivers, but on the topic of going back and checking things out, I think that some of your older albums are going to be kind of unheralded in a sense. The people are going to go back and be like, oh wow, the Concealers is a banger, the self-titled is a banger, they want to even date back to the Hinderers, it's a banger. So this is actually, this new album is not just 9 new songs, it's 9 new songs plus the past catalog that people are going to get familiar with now.
Yeah. I I think the songs in the past are there for a reason. There was a lesson in there. I think Joey had said it once to me where he said, once you finish a record, you give it to the fans, and then it's no longer your record; it's their record, and that's the truth. It is. It's like we don't own those songs anymore. I mean, it's up to the fans. So I think you listen and you hear the pain and the suffering and the anguish and the struggle and the hunger all come through in those songs. And it's not that they don't in the new songs, it's just a different sound. So yeah, I think you develop an appreciation for it, as you listen back, and then now you can hear the new shit. You're like, damn, see how far they've come. So everything is there, for a reason. We had to go through those painful moments to get to where we are. So it'd be cool to have people give some respect to the old stuff sometimes as well.
For sure. And you just brought up the legendary Joey Jordison. And it's interesting because Shanzi, in your time off from Daath, you actually got to be in a band with, the musical icon. What did you learn from being in a band with the late and great legendary Joey Jordison, the original Slipknot drummer?
Just hearing him talk about being a nothing and a nobody, and where he developed the logo sitting in a gas station when he worked with a Valero. He was like, I'm going to be in Slipknot, we're going to be huge, and just hearing the stories he would tell and the perseverance, and they had no idea what the hell they were doing or getting into. But then to the later stuff where I'd pick his brain just on the music industry and things like that, like a lesson to be taught in music that you create. It's no longer yours. It definitely allowed me to check some boxes off of things I needed to learn, but also I kind of put my name a little more out there. So I learned quite a bit from that dude. I'm not going to lie. A lot of people associate Joey now. They'll go to something previous I've done, or, I have a lot of people who are past Joey fans always kind of creeping on my everything, and the family and I are still really close. So they run their page and they're always posting shit that we do. So it's cool, man.
So the nerds are gonna love y'all's new album, The Deceivers, but let's not get it twisted, gentlemen. You can still put this album on before you go to the gym, before you play video games, on a long drive, do any extreme activity. Like, there again, many ways to skin a cat on how you're gonna, on the people that are gonna listen to this album and how and where to listen to this album.
Yeah, I mean, we all have nerdy sides, but that's not what the essence of this band is. Like, we don't sit around when we're writing something, even the craziest parts. We're not sitting around trying to do something technical because the technical thing will be impressive, or or solve some math problem or something. Like, it's all about the way the part feels and how insane it's going to feel. It's or sound or whatever. It's never about like how fast or like what how complex it is. Like, that's not the, if we ever talk about that stuff, it's always in the context of having to learn how to actually play it or explain it to another person, but it's never like the stated goal. We're going to make something that's mathematically complicated. Like, we want this to be like a musical atomic bomb, basically.
As it is, yeah. It definitely is.
And you know, there's lots of collaborations on this album, and you know, I love the Dean Lamb, the Dan Sugarman. And you know what's funny? I saw a comment. So someone mentioned, oh, they did a song with a guy from Ice Nine Kills. I'm not even gonna listen. Right? And I just think that's so unfair because, for example, like I brought up my favorite
his loss.
I know, but hear me out. My favorite hardcore band, Every Time I Die, they did a song with the singer from Panic at the Disco. We're like a pop band, and dude, the song sounded fucking amazing. So, like, people need to like relax. Like just because a guy from a band that doesn't sound like y'all is doing a collaboration with y'all doesn't mean that all of a sudden y'all are gonna sell out or y'all are gonna be uncharacteristic. Like, they got to give it a chance.
Yeah. Hey, perfect example. Cradle of Filth, right? Who did they just do a fucking single with?
Ed Sheeran.
Ed Sheeran, yeah. Ed Sheeran. Yeah. So
exactly.
I want to hear it. I don't know. I mean, I'm not the type to just be like, I won't even listen to it. Turn that off. I want to actually check it out. What is he like? Yeah, shit. Let's hear that shit. You know, I mean, I don't know. I guess it's just small-mindedness. Sometimes people get in that. You know, it's the elitist thing. You know, it's that. You know, I've definitely suffered from it. I think we all do as metalheads. I think even though you say you don't have that in you, there's a part of you that has it in you. There's that like cynical asshole in all of us, and obviously as we get older, it gets worse. You know, kids these days. You know, so I think it's just a smaller version of that will eventually embellish into something just massive for that person. Whether it be like, oh, music, I hate music. I'm not listening to that anymore. It's not made with, you know, my favorite Pop-Tart, you know, cereal. So,
yeah, I think people also don't understand the nature of how some of these collabs work. So in our case, we didn't have a solidified lineup when we got all those guest guitar solos. So because we had the idea that we were going to do this regardless of who was with us, like we're doing this. Since we didn't have a solidified lineup, we got a bunch of our friends to play the solos, and then while we were doing that, we found Raphael, but we already had all these solos confirmed with the guests, so it's not like we were going to just like not do them. And also, like, why would we? They're great. And the thing with these collabs is unless you're there, you don't know what actually happened, and you don't know, like, you just don't know. You don't know if the entire song is written and like it's a vocal collab, and they give the guest vocalist actual lyrics and like patterns, or you don't know if the person who did the collab wrote all their own stuff. You don't know what level of communication. You don't know if they're old friends. You don't know if they used to be in a band together and that's why they're doing it. You don't know if just the manager spoke. You don't know. So like, to prejudge is really stupid. In our case, the collabs, we worked very, very closely with these soloists as if we were in a band with them. And every one of the soloists, I asked them what their like 3 proudest moments were solo wise, and then asked them to describe an ideal scenario for soloing. Like, what would make you feel like you can really like tear the shit out of this? And then based on that, I wrote parts for them that would help them shine, but I also wrote parts that would give them, I guess, like when you play lead guitar, good lead guitar players are always considering their options of like what notes will work, what notes won't work, like what are my options here, because you can't just do anything. You can only do specific things at specific times. So if you make it to where their options are limited to just stuff that will sound correct for us, then it's not going to sound like like some different dude who doesn't fit. That's why all the solos, all the guest solos still sound like they fit the song, is because the options they were given would only yield Daath-like results. So it's people don't know what they're talking about when they say dumb shit like that.
What would be y'all's dream collaboration? I know you all got a lot of guitar players, but what about some singers? You want to mash up with anybody, Sean Z? Any dream collabs?
I don't know who I would go well with. I mean, obviously, I have my favorites, but obviously that would never happen.
Hey, never say never.
Dude, bro, Limp Bizkit is not getting. Fred Durst is not going to get on a Daath record. All right.
You said who? Sorry, who?
Fred Durst is not going to be on a Daath record. But honestly, you never know, right? Or I obviously Corey Taylor. That was something I molded a lot of my vocal style after. I don't know. All the people that I would want to collab with, it's kind of funny. I would basically kind of sound like them, so we would sound the same. It'd be more for a name. Jens Kidman. There you go. That's a guy who needs to be on the next Daath record.
Jonathan Davis, maybe.
Well, come on, of course. Yeah, where's that track at, man? Dude, when Jonathan Davis and Corey Taylor did a track, it was like the most odd combination. So therefore, I feel like Jonathan Davis would be a great fit, to be honest. Hey, if you got the hookup, you got my number, man. You send it my way, bro. We'll make sure we get that shit done. We'll do a song. We'll make it happen.
Eyal?
We would write a song specifically for that.
I know. If Jonathan Davis was like, well, you got to write one for me, I'd be like, bro, we got to write this like tonight.
For sure. You got any dream collabs, Eyal?
I mean, all the above, basically. It would be, but I also think it would be really sick if Matt Bellamy wanted to do something with us, or Ishan wanted to do something with us, or Mike Ackerfeld wanted to do something with us.
Oh, well, yeah, I just should have said that one. Fuck that. I mean, how did I miss that one?
That would be
I've always been a huge Opeth fan, man. Damn.
Yeah, I got a suggestion. I know Eyal thinks I'm gonna say Josh Homme or Mike Patton, which, don't get me wrong, I would fucking love to see both of them.
Mike Patton? Sure, dude. Send him this way.
Hear me out on this, all right? I got one that's kind of off the wall, and just how we were talking about how it doesn't have to be someone from a band that has a similar sound to y'all. Like we were talking about Every Time I Die with Panic at the Disco. We were talking about Cradle of Filth, So what about Daath with Christina Scabia from Lacuna Coil? I think Sean Z has the most brutal voice in metal. I think Christina Scabia has the most beautiful voice in metal. I think that you put Sean Z, Eyal Levi, Andrew Wade, and Christina Scabia in a room together, and you guys are going to come out with something incredible. And I don't know if she's going to sing background vocals, a verse, of course. Y'all figure that out. But I think if y'all can figure out a way to do something with her, it would rock the metal access.
Timu did this song called, I think it's called Gateways, where they had a Norwegian female pop star on it, I believe. Actually got pretty big, and it actually ended up pretty cool. It's like I was surprised by how good it came out. I mean, sure, she's awesome.
Yeah. She's still going strong, bro. So yeah, definitely consider that. Now, if you could engineer the perfect tour with you guys on it, what other bands would be on the bill? And I know we can name 10, but let's leave it to four other bands besides Daath, maybe 3.
Slipknot and Metallica.
Yeah, I was just about to say, it's like the Metallica, Slipknot, Daath and Korn tour. Like, damn, all right, well, that works.
Sign me up. Maybe a little Gojira in there. And speaking of Gojira,
sure, yeah.
Okay, so I've been commenting, the metal is back, haha, which it just goes to credit to how amazing y'all's new album is. But proof that metal is alive and well, Gojira headlined over Mastodon in Atlanta, and listen to this, at an amphitheater.
Yeah,
one does not simply Yeah, you don't just play after Mastodon in Atlanta, let alone in an amphitheater. I mean, unless you're Lamb of God or whatever the case may be. But I think that speaks volumes that metal really is alive and well.
Yeah, it never went anywhere. I think metal, especially live, is doing better than ever. Like, man, if you see, there's some like pictures from like Amon Amarth shows where they are playing arenas in the United States with like Cannibal Corpse doing direct support. Like, their metal is doing great. It's not like mainstream like it was in the 80s or anything like that. And it's not like part of pop culture, I guess, but its own world is, I think, probably stronger than ever, especially live. Like, bands are fucking crushing it live now. It's awesome.
So when you guys got off the stage after your last show with Fear Factory and High on Fire overseas, did you know that that'd be the last time you guys would play together in over 14 years?
Yes, pretty much.
I had a feeling, yeah, I had a feeling that shit just. The shows were fine. It was just a situation.
We knew.
Yeah, it was just like everything was failing. The flights were being canceled. Like, we barely made it home. We were stuck in some horrific European snowstorm. And not that doesn't happen, but I think it was the worst snowstorm in history to hit Europe in 75 years. I'm like, of course it's now. Of course it is. And things just like all add up. You know, like, yeah, this is it. I'm going to take a break from this for a little bit.
Well, I'm glad you guys came back, and you came back in triumphant fashion. Album of the year. Before I get you guys out of here, you down to do a little small trivia game show portion of the show with me?
Sure.
So, I'm down to look stupid.
All right. So check it out. This is how it works. So in a game show fashion, I'm going to ask a question, but you have to let me finish the question before you answer. And normally in a game show, you hit the buzzer, and whoever hits the buzzer first gets to answer first. In this case, there's no buzzer. So the first person to shout battle is the person that gets to answer the question. Now, you get 1 point for a correct answer, 0 points if you pass or don't want to answer, and -1 point for an incorrect answer. Okay?
All right.
Sound good?
Okay.
So let me finish the question. So. You said what now?
I suck at trivia. So.
No, don't worry. No, don't worry. I got you. I'm not going to ask y'all who the 5 Spice Girls are. Maybe you'll get that right. Maybe you will. But remember, let me finish the sentence. And once I'm done, then first person to say battle gets to answer. Okay?
All right.
Question number 1. When Daath went on hiatus in 2011, who was the president of the United States?
Battle. Obama.
I think Sean Z got that one.
Okay. Obama. It was Obama.
All right. 1 point for Sean Z. Okay. Who is the new drummer for the Foo Fighters?
Battle.
Eyal?
Josh Freese.
Yes, sir.
That's right. That's right.
All right. Name 3 bands with numbers in their names.
Battle.
Sean Z?
311, 3 Doors Down, and 3 Days Grace.
Hey, nice.
Pretty good.
the answers I wrote were 311, Blink-182, Sum 41, and 07. So I like how you kept it with the 3s. So Sean Z got 2 points. Eyal got 1. All right. Name 3 actors who have played the Joker.
Battle.
Eyal?
Heath Ledger, Shaq Nicholson, Jared Leto.
Yeah, that was the one I was thinking.
You could have said Joaquin Phoenix, but we'll go Jared Leto. That's fine.
The new Joker. Yeah.
All right. Name all 3 drummers that have played in Slipknot.
Battle.
Sean Z?
Jay Weinberg, Eloy Casagrande, and Joey Jordison.
Yes, sir. All right. Now the questions are going to get a little harder. I had to throw you some softballs to start it off. What is the name of the big Faith No More single before Mike Patton joined the band?
Battle.
Eyal?
We Care a Lot.
We Care a Lot.
Good one.
Dun, dun. Okay. Name all 4 bassists to play in Metallica. That first one's
Four?
going up. I
Battle.
know. Did you say battle? Sorry.
Yeah.
What is it?
Ron McGovney.
Okay. You got
Cliff
it. You don't need to
Burton.
name the other three.
Okay,
I know. We
all right.
all know who the other three are. I just wanted to see if you knew about Rob McGovney, and you do. You
I
do.
don't.
Okay.
I didn't actually know about
All
him.
right, it's 4-3 AL right now. We're getting down to the wire. Name 2 current or former UFC fighters.
Battle.
Shazi?
Anderson Silva.
Yeah.
And man, I'm blanking on all of my UFC fighters.
She's Irish. She's Irish.
Well, come on with that. Wasn't the dude who became the boxer? It wasn't he a UFC fighter?
Which one?
Um,
I'll say Jake Paul. I don't want to take any points away.
No, the guy who fought the money team. The guy who fought him. Irish guy.
That's the Irish guy. What's his name?
Shit.
It starts with a C.
Conor McGregor.
Okay. There we go. We're tied at 4. Okay.
Dude, why couldn't I think of another? I used to watch the shit out of UFC. Why couldn't I think of another person?
One time, you and I
Ronda
smoked a
Rousey.
blunt and watched Anderson Silva's entire.
I know.
You remember that? That was fun.
I know. I do. Ronda Rousey. Yeah, I guess that counts.
Ronda
Yeah.
Rousey, Jorge Masvidal. Anyways,
You would have lost points if you said Ronda Rousey, bro.
Facts. Name 5 current or former Atlanta Braves players.
Oh, I could do that. Battle.
Okay.
Tom Glavine, Andrew Jones, David Justice, Greg Maddox, Rafael Furcal.
Oh man, hey, done deal. All right.
I was a huge Braves fan growing up. That's not fair.
5 for Sean, 4 for AL. Getting down to the wire. We got one more plus a bonus question just in case we need to settle things. So, name 5 current or former Atlanta artists or bands.
Battle.
AL.
Mastodon, the Black Crows, Seven Dust, Tony Braxton, Daath.
Outcast, Gucci Mane.
REM, yeah.
This is perfect. So we got 5 Sean Z, 5 AL, and here's the bonus to decide everything. Y'all ready for this? Hopefully y'all been reading the latest metal news. So the guy from Deicide said that metal bands nowadays look like they play in which band?
Battle.
Shit. Yeah, fuck you guys.
Damn.
Oh, no. Yeah, actually, I didn't say battle. I lost.
Yeah.
I lost.
What's the
I didn't
answer?
say battle. Well, he got it. I mean, I said it, but he said battle first. I just blurted the answer.
But
I
you
was
gotta
gonna
answer
say.
it.
I was gonna say Weezer. Yeah.
Yeah, it is Weezer. Yeah. I watched that interview.
5.
But that's not wait. But maybe there's one more question.
That was a technicality. I fucked up. I was so excited. I'm like,
I don't want to win on a technicality.
Shit. That's all I had written down.
All right,
so.
fine.
That's all right. It's fine. It was a fair. I broke the rules, so I lose.
All right. Well, now I got
I'm
one
a fair
for you, regarding y'all's bands, and y'all both know the answer, but it's whoever's going to answer it quickest. Who sang on the Hinders and Futility?
Mike Hammer.
Bro. Battle. My camera.
I know the credits are a little murky, so we just got to make sure that the fans aren't mistaken about what was what. But gentlemen, what an absolute pleasure to have y'all on Half the Battle. Their new album, The Deceivers, is in stores now, streaming on all platforms. Sean Z and Eyal Levi from Daath, everybody. Thank you so much, gentlemen.
Thanks,
Hey, man.
Daniel.
Thanks for having us.
So where can they find you on social media? Sean at Sean Z Screams?
Yeah, Sean Z Screams. Yeah.
Everywhere?
Yeah. Basically everything. Yeah.
So Sean Z Screams. Oh, and one thing. I was hanging out with a girl the other night, and I played her in my brother's band. And, she's not like a metal fan or nothing. Do you ever get this from casual Sean? Like, what does he talk like in real life?
I bet you just talk like this. I do get that a lot, I showed to some coworkers and stuff, and they're not of the metal breed, and it's weird because a lot of people say, man, yeah, I used to listen to Rammstein. I'm like, okay. That's not even in the same realm. But yeah, fine. Ramstein was cool.
For sure, for sure. All right, Eyal, what's your social media?
At Eyal Levi URM Audio on
Awesome.
Instagram. My name on Facebook, and make sure you go to daathofficial.com for the
Daath Official.
website.
Yeah,
Because if you want to buy the actual record, you know, you can get the fruit roll-up variety that Daniel showed through the mail order. But if you actually want to go to a store and get the marble version, we have a list of stores that are carrying it on our website. And even if you don't see your city on the list, there's a link on how to find a store near you. So don't just randomly go to a record store because you might be disappointed. You should always confirm that the record store you're going to is carrying it.
Yeah, so y'all go to daathofficial.com and they got the list of all the record stores carrying their new record, The Deceivers. And if you can't find your store on that list, they have a link you click and they show you additional stores. So don't panic if you don't see it initially, because the record is available everywhere. Let's take a look at this. Let's take a look.
You mean that one?
Yeah. And let me pull out the other one so they can see the two side by side.
That one does look awesome.
Yes, it does. I agree.
I mean, these are your options, y'all. Like, come on now. Hold on. Yeah, there we go. Like, if you're a vinyl collector or you just want to hear the badass best album of the year, y'all know what to do. Daathofficial.com for all the fans. Thank you so much for your support. Smash the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave me a comment, share if you feel so inclined. You can follow me on Twitter at BestFightPicks. You can follow me on Instagram at HalfTheBattlePod. Gentlemen, it's been an absolute pleasure. Check out their new album, The Deceivers. And until the next time, let's cash these bets.